being honest and open, right? I have always been an overt stutterer, right? I would stutter my head off, but I would always speak up. Why? Because growing up, even when I was in college and I might be in a class with 200 other students, if I knew the answer, I would raise my hand, even if I stuttered. But guess what? Because I had a choice, either be known as that guy that stutters or be known as that really smart guy that stutters, right? And so that's the thing, is that we have in us that we need to get out. And our stutter does not define who we are. We all have passions, hopes, fears, all of these things, talents, families, people we love. This is all part of who we are. But if we let our stutter tell the story of who we are and dictate how we interact with the world, none of that other wonderful stuff that honestly makes up a bigger part of who we are gets to be shared with the rest of the world. So I think once we come to that point where we can be open and honest and say, hey, this is one part of who I am. Yes, I'm a person that stutters. But guess what? There's all of these other things that make me me. And, yeah, now I stutter, no big deal. Let me share these other parts of me with you and with the rest of the world.
Do you think there was anything that helped you since a very young age to be so confident and just disclosing your speech impediment? Because for most kids and teenagers, it's not easy to raise their hand knowing that they will not be able to maybe get the words out, or it might take longer, or maybe they will be bullied. From where did you get this confidence since a very young age?
I think it came out of the fact that I had to fight to be accepted. And I mean that, and not only am I a person that stutters, I'm a person that has cerebral palsy. I had a very difficult birth. I was actually found not breathing a few hours after I was born. And during that time, I sustained brain damage. And the doctors told my parents at that point that I should not be expected to be able to walk nor talk at all. Thankfully, I went to physical therapy, went to speech therapy, and I'm obviously talking to you right now. I walked in my truck, I drive, right? I still deal with some physical aspects of that, right? My posture isn't that good. I drag one of my legs a little bit, right? These are all uh, due to the cerebral palsy. But going back to your question, when I started school, they put me in classes for disabled children, right? And yes, I have these physical things that I deal with, but up here, I can do anything, right? And I had to fight, I had to express, I had to let the world know, hey, I can do more. Because one thing I've always had to combat is the lowered expectations that institutions had of me. They said, okay, this is a kid with cerebral palsy. Let's put him in these special classes. We're not going to expect much of him. And I had to really fight to say, no, I can do more, right? I can do more. So then I got to normal classes. And guess what? In normal classes, as a person that stutters, I became the class clown, Why? Because at that point, and this was like in middle school, so age like 12, it was either I can get my classmates to laugh with me or they would laugh at me, right? So for me to become vocal or for me to speak up, it became a defense mechanism mechanism where I'm the one that's putting myself out there. And I'm letting you know that I'm smart, I'm funny. Yeah, I'm a person that stutters, but again, I'm not gonna let you define me for you. I'm going to define myself, right? Um, but guess what? That got me into trouble, and I got suspended because I was always talking and acting up in class. Thankfully, my school principal, asked me during that time, why are you constantly acting out, speaking out? I said, I'm bored. And thankfully, he had the insight to get me tested for gifted and talented and high IQ courses. And on that day that I took that test, I made the highest score in the whole school
Whoa,
district. Right? And so then the way they looked at me totally
changed.
changed, right? At first, it was like, we're not going to expect much from this kid with this disability to, hey, this is a really smart kid. We have to make sure that he stays in our school so that he can keep our test scores high, right? And that again, that changed the way that I looked at myself too. Because when people are putting these labels on you, even as a kid, you don't know what that means. You know that they're not expecting much of you. So then I had this new label, and I thought, wow, I can do things. I have a point of view that matters. I can say things about what's going on in the world. So at that time, I really had no control over my speech like I do today. But thankfully, by the end of high school, I was the head editor of my school paper. I was in charge of a mural class where we painted murals all over my school that I helped design, and those are still up there today. So, again, this concept of even as a person that stutters, I have all of these thoughts and opinions that I need to share with others. And, at first it started out as doing it in a non constructive way that kind of got me in trouble trouble at school. But by the end of high school, it became in a constructive way, right? Being in charge of the school newspaper, being in charge of an art class where we put public art everywhere, right? So I think that that's the key for us as people who stutter is to first understand that we have a point of view that deserves to be understood. We have a voice that deserves to be heard, but we need to find a constructive way to get that out in a way that will help us grow as people.